Well, yeah, we'll probably sell some Bitcoin to fund a dividend just to inoculate the market, just to send the message that we did it. Look, the company's fine, the Bitcoin's fine, the industry's fine, the world didn't come to an end. And if you're a short seller and your thesis is the company's got to sell equity in order to fund the dividends, I would like nothing better than to, rip your wings off. I think the company got much healthier.
Well, he threatened that he one day would sell Bitcoin, and he did. He said he would do it to inoculate the market, and he did. Now, I'm not sure if that's the reason why the market's trading like the market's trading, but right now, Bitcoin is at a very, very, very critical level. And I actually say critical level, but it's actually below the critical level. So that's the bear flag over here. We've been monitoring that bear flag for a long time. The one concern that we had is that if you look at the previous market, I just want to bring a chart up here. So this is the 200-day moving average, and you can see that in the previous bear market, when we hit that 200-day moving average, the next time we came down from that, we actually broke below the bear flag, and we got a massive move down in Bitcoin. And in this market, it looks like exactly the same things actually happening, right? So you've got us just touching for the first time, actually testing that 200-day moving average, and now we went down on that bear flag. And what you can see now when you look at that bear flag is we're actually slightly below the bear flag. We wanted to keep that, like, I think it's about 72,045. We wanted to keep that level, and now it seems we're breaking down. Now, I don't know, is it because Saylor sold? I'm not sure if it's because Saylor sold. I think the momentum was there way before. Saylor did announce that he actually sold. They announced that they actually sold 32 Bitcoin. Michael Saylor announced that they sold 32 Bitcoin for over $2.5 million. Now, let's talk about why he sold, right? So I guess he probably sold, one, to inoculate the market. Two, there could be tax consequences. Like, he could be selling Bitcoin to actually get certain tax breaks and stuff like that. So he actually did it. Michael Saylor sold. So if you're looking for Saylor FUD crashing the market, Saylor has sold. And now Bitcoin is trading at that bear flag. There's no panic in the market. The market's not broken or anything else. And I think actually quite good that he actually did it. For me, very good that Saylor actually just sold. At least that FUD is now out of the market. When he does sell, the market's not going to panic. I think he actually he picked a very opportune time to sell. Why? Because he's at a point now where there's not much buying of Bitcoin, and the sellers are pretty much all sold. So we're like in this like no man's land. Traditional markets are pumping every single day. Bitcoin, crypto feels very, very, very dead. That's something that I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the markets and how it feels being a crypto investor right now. I want to talk about Saylor selling. I want to talk about a big bet, the bet that Kyle Samani and Arthur Hayes actually took around Hype versus Sol. So Arthur Hayes came out and he said, hey, Kyle Samani, maybe you were busy the last time I pinged you. Let's do a gentleman's charitable bet. I put 100K on the line to a charity of your choice that Hype outperforms any of the current top 10 in USD terms from now until the end of the year. Who's your champion? So we're going to talk about that bet because I've got equal amounts in Hype and in Sol, and I guess I'm in the middle of this because I've got equal today as my portfolio stands. I've got equal amounts of Hype and Solana. Solana used to be my biggest holding. Today I've got equal amounts of Hype and Sol. Which one's going to perform better between now and the end of the year? Let me know in the comments. Let's do a poll. In the poll, let's see who's going to perform better until the end of the year. So, lots to talk about today. We're going to compare Hype and Sol. We're going to look at why Michael Saylor sold. We're going to look at the bear flag. We've got a lot to do today. We've got a lot to do today. Let's get the show on the road, guys. All right, 1st of June, Monday. Here we are. Bitcoin is testing this bear flag. Not great. I must be honest. We really want to close above the 72,000, and we really want to bounce pretty quick. Not only for the bear flag, because if we break down below this bear flag, I think like the levels are 49,000 or 50,000. That's probably the next level that you could expect if we actually do break convincingly below the bear flag. The one thing about this bear flag is that I don't know if you remember that I told you, but over here, if you look at the date here, 23rd of Feb, and over here, 28th, 29th of Feb. So here the date's actually 26th or 27th of Feb, and here you can look at like the 28th, 29th of Feb. What you can see is the last two times that happened, STRC pegged to 100, right? So if you look at like when STRC pegged to 100, you look at like the 24th or 25th of Feb, which is somewhere around here, and if you look at where, that's when STRC actually pegged back to 100, and the same thing in March, STRC pegged back to 100. Here we are now at the bottom of the bear flag. We have 15 days to go, 14 days to go until STRC goes ex-dividend, And right now, STRC is trading at 98.65. I warned about this in the beginning. I warned about this last month, actually, where I said, I have a suspicion that STRC won't peg until the very last day, or maybe 2 days before the very last day, which means that right now, as it stands, Michael Saylor's weapon to come into the market and save the market and get us above the bear flag, him being the biggest buyer right now, I suspect that it's not going to peg, or it's going to peg very, very, very close to the middle of the month. Now, remember with STRC, you want it to peg as early as possible, so Michael Saylor can sell the shares at market for as long as possible and raise as much money as possible before the end of every month, right? And as it currently stands, here we are at the first of the month. It's nowhere near pegging. My feeling is if it pegs, it'll peg 2 days before, which doesn't really give Saylor any time to go out and actually raise money. So not looking good for the market right now. They kept the dividend at 11.5%. Remember that one of the tools that Saylor's got is to keep raising the dividend so that this thing pegs at $100. I don't think it's pegging this month. I think it's going to peg 2 days before. As I mentioned, yep, they sold 32 Bitcoin, $2.5 million. I actually really wonder why he did this. There must have been some method in the madness here. I wonder if it is a tax break, or I wonder if it is just to inoculate the market so that, Saylor sold and it was a small amount, and who actually cares? Saylor's not the only one selling, actually. I mean, the ETF's also selling like crazy. We've had the biggest outflows from the ETFs that we've had in a long time. If you go to this chart here and you look at the weekly, here we go. You had 3 weeks ago, you had you had $1 billion flow out. Then here you had $1.26 billion flow out, and then here you had $1.42 billion flow out. So effectively, the ETFs are now selling at a rapid pace. What's going on here? Why is Bitcoin so out of favor, and why is Bitcoin being sold when all other assets are basically going up? This is painful. It doesn't look that painful when you look at it on a spreadsheet, but when you're in Bitcoin and every other market is going up every single day, and you're getting all-time highs on all other markets, and I know you guys are experiencing it as well. I know that I open up my morning routine is that I open up TradingView first. I just do a quick pulse check on Bitcoin, So I'll tell you what my trading routine looks like. You can laugh, but I mean, I kind of know that you guys have got the same trading routine. So at night or in the morning when I wake up because I need to go to the bathroom. It's inevitable. I always need to go to the bathroom. When you get to my age, you'll also always need to go to the bathroom in the morning. When I walk to the bathroom, the first thing I do is I check the Bitcoin price. And I just, it's a pulse check. Is it going to be a good day or a bad day? Are the markets going to go up or going to go down? I always check the Bitcoin price first. Once I've checked the Bitcoin price, then I go to Twitter. So first Bitcoin price, good day, bad day, then Twitter. Let me know if your routine is the same. And then when I get to Twitter, basically what I'm seeing today is this stock is at all-time highs. Oracle's Trump called IBM's going to all-time highs. Oracle recovering. Micron going to all-time highs. So all I read is about all-time highs, and at the same time, nothing's happening in Bitcoin. Now, that is very, very, very painful being an investor. So what's actually going on? I do think that there's a massive, massive, massive rotation that's happening right now between everything and AI. So it's not only Bitcoin and AI, it's actually everything in AI. So when you look here, if you look at gold, there's also a massive rotation out of gold into, you see that, so if you look at from March, 26th of March, and you look at what's happened to gold, so gold's also down 17%. And if you look at that, let's just look at the NASDAQ as a proxy for AI, because it's the tech-heavy NASDAQ. If you look at what's happened since March, that's what's happened since March. So basically right now, what this is telling you, what the data is telling you, is that there is a rotation from every other market into AI, and Bitcoin is no different. Everyone's now rotating from every other market into AI. Now, I've seen this before. What you're seeing now, what you're witnessing now, is you're witnessing the last of the longs going into an overcrowded trade. The last of the longs are going into an overcrowded AI trade. Now, I'm not saying it's the end of the AI bubble. In fact, it's not the end of the AI bubble. My thesis is that the AI bubble isn't popping until 2023. But I am going to tell you that that right now a lot of late longs are going into the AI bet, and they're doing it by selling everything else and going into the AI bet. Now, to me, that is the worst time to be getting into the market. And I'll show you why I say that, right? I look at two indicators. I look at the NASDAQ and I look at the RSI on the NASDAQ. And I mean, the RSI on the NASDAQ, so here's the RSI on the NASDAQ. And you can see that the RSI on the NASDAQ is very, very, very high. It's above 70. In fact, what you can also see is that every time that it's been that high, a correction's actually followed, right? At the same time, when I look at the BTC chart and I look on the weekly and I look at the RSIs on BTC on the weekly are close to 40, right? Now, here's an interesting chart for you. So you take BTC USD and you divide that by QQQ, which is a NASDAQ, effectively, right? It's a NASDAQ ETF. And if you compare the NASDAQ to the QQQ, you see that the RSI on the NASDAQ versus the QQQ is 26. The RSI on that level hasn't been that low on the NASDAQ versus the QQQ for a long time, which kind of means that this chart at some stage has to reverse. Later on today, I'm going to publish a video on Crypto Insider, which is the other channel, where we're doing much more institutional type content, more not day-to-day type of stuff. And I'm going to publish a video about this specific chart. And I really, really, really encourage you to actually go and watch that video because it really shows you what's happening here. But in a nutshell, what's happening here is you're getting the latecomers to the AI trade, FOMOing out of everything else into AI. And now we know that when that happens, you want to be rotating from the hot asset to the cool asset when hopefully we get a bounce off this trend line, right? So we should get theoretically, we should get a bounce off this trend line because this is a 10-year-old trend line, right? It goes back 10 years. So that's the Bitcoin thesis. That's Saylor having sold. I don't think that the Bitcoin price is down because Saylor sold, and you see now we're going down more and more. If you zoom in on that candle, just have a look at that candle there. It's ugly. It's ugly. It's not good. You want to hope that it's a breakdown, fake down, and we go up there. The one thing that's making me a little bit more nervous is if you look at like ETH USD. So you look at ETH USD and you look at the weekly on ETH USD, that's broken down below the bear flag already. So if you look, that's the ETH USD, and you can see it's already broken down below the bear flag. So not great news on the charts, unfortunately, unless, of course, you are a hyperliquid bull. So if you are a hyperliquid bull, then this show doesn't apply to you because you're at all-time high. You're at all-time high in the RSIs. So you're in a bull market. Actually, it's hyperliquid super cycle. That's what it is. And yeah, I mean, look, I do have a big bag of Hyperliquid. It's actually my Thai second biggest bag. My first biggest bag is Bitcoin. Then my Thai second biggest bag is Solana and Hyperliquid. And having an interest in both, I often ask myself, which one's better? Which one's going to perform better? And I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday on Twitter, Arthur Hayes challenged Kyle Samani to a bet. He basically said, look, Kyle, I guarantee you that on a dollar basis, Hype outperforms the top 10 assets as they stand today. Now, what are those top 10 assets? ETH, obviously Tether, BNB, XRP, USDC, that's a stablecoin, Solana, Tron, and what the hell is this? Figure. What's 𝗙𝗘𝗃𝗧𝗨𝗥𝗘𝗗? What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. Anyway, let's go to a site that is a little bit more reliable than the other sites, and let's go see what the top 10 assets actually are. Let me just look at the top 10 assets here. So let's just refresh that. Okay, so the top 10 assets here: Bitcoin, ETH, BNB, XRP, Solana, Tron. Never heard of this 𝗙𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I don't know. You must be new here, or I'm new here. Hyperliquid, Doge. Okay, so he's saying that Hyperliquid outperform. Kyle Samani said yes, he'll take the bet. Believe it or not, he says we have a deal, and his asset is actually Solana. The stakes are $100,000 going into a charity of each other's choice. By the way, I see that the like ratio is very, very, very low here. So you've got like 800 people and 100 likes. Guys, do me a favor. It really helps distribution. Just smash the like button. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps me with distribution. Amazing. So let's carry on. Let's go here and just look at the metrics that actually make up Hype and Solana. Because yes, there's a bet going on, but let's look at the metrics that actually make up that bet. And I want to show you the data behind the bet. And then let's make a decision as to which one. As I say, I'm holding equal amounts of both. So I'm not biased one way or the other. I don't mind which one performs. I'd love for them both to perform because I own both. Because I think that as part of a balanced crypto portfolio today in 2026, you need to have a lot of assets. But the question is, will Solana actually recover? Will Solana actually perform? I think the first thing is, let's agree that what's happening with Hyperliquid is an anomaly. You don't really often get an asset that runs in a crypto bear market when Bitcoin's going down. Like, let's just admit that what's happening with Hyperliquid is an anomaly. It's a good anomaly. Like, it's a great anomaly, but nonetheless, let's admit that it is an anomaly, right? And I'd love to see Hyperliquid in a real bull market. And I know some of you will say, well, it was here kind of for a bull market. That wasn't a bull market. I would love to see what happens to Hyperliquid. I'd love to see the revenue that they have in a bull market because I think that that's going to melt people's faces, seriously. Anyway, be that as it may, let's actually look at some data. So the first piece of data is not actually data, it's actually a chart. And I want to look at the charts here. If you look at Hyperliquid, all-time highs, and RSIs also at all-time highs. RSIs at 81. I mean, that's crazy. On the flip side of it, you've got Solana. Solana it's a terrible chart. And if you look at the RSIs on Solana right now are at 36. Now, remember, when you go below 30, that's considered a low. In fact, if you look back historically, 30 has been the low. So Solana really is having a tough time. Now, when you look at the Solana hype chart, that's a terrible, terrible, terrible chart. In fact, I always love doing this when you invert the chart. So you can actually invert the chart here. And you say, okay, would you buy that altcoin? I definitely buy that altcoin. And that just shows that there is a lot more downside for Sol versus hype. Let's look at the actual numbers. So let's look at the actual numbers that make up this bet. The first thing is, let's talk about who captures the majority of the on-chain trading fees in the market. So right now, Hyperliquid capture 44% of all fees in the market or on chains, while Solana capture 8.57% of all the fees. And that was for the week 24th to 31st of May. So Hyperliquid on chain doing a lot more fees than any of the other L1s. It is important to remember though that Hype is doing this with really one killer application, which is Perpetual's trading, right? And as it relates to Perpetual's trading, they are making a lot of progress in Perpetual's trading. They're taking 13.78% of Binance's share, which is absolutely, absolutely crazy. So their killer product is this futures perpetual decentralized exchange. The fees, you can see as it relates to fees. If you look at the fees that they make monthly, if you look at the monthly fees, so that's the let's look at the daily fees just for fun. So the daily fees are like $1 million per day. If you look at it on a month, basically in May, they made $45 million. And what did they do with that $45 million? This is where Hype actually wins. The tokenomics are amazing. They actually went and bought $44 million back of Hype tokens. So this is where Hyperliquid basically dominates. There's no gray areas here, right? They make fees, they buy tokens, they burn tokens. That's basically what Hyperliquid does. And so that's why they're doing so well, right? That doesn't take into account the fees that they're going to make because of the partnership that they got with Coinbase. Coinbase announced they're supporting Hyperliquid. It's becoming the official treasury deployer of USDC into the decentralized markets. And there are estimates that this deal with Coinbase could yield Hyperliquid as much as $200 million in revenue. So while the exact revenue was not revealed, the framework means Hyperliquid will receive as much as 90% of the reserve income from the deposits of the USDC on the platform, which is basically quite big. They also found a product market fit, allowing people to trade stocks, oil, etc., after hours. And so people go there to basically trade stocks, to trade perpetuals, to trade crypto, to trade everything else. So that is Hyperliquid, and that's what Hyperliquid have going for it. But let's not write off Solana, because I know that it's been a very rough time for Solana, but generally you want to buy the asset that's out of favor, and you want to trade the asset that's in favor for the asset that's out of favor, right? So the asset right now that's in favor, and you can see it clearly from the RSIs, is Hyperliquid. That's the asset that's in favor. And the asset that has negative momentum right now is Solana. But if you look at the distribution that Solana has and the distribution that Hyperliquid has, that's where I think you can't really compare, right? Like you don't even see this in the chart. Hyperliquid has 59,800 daily active addresses. Solana has 1.6 million daily active addresses. That's a much bigger distribution curve. You can't write off distribution. The thing is that you got to remember that right now there's not much to do with blockchain because it's a bear market. But when the users actually start coming back, yes, of course, they're going to come back into crypto's amazing use case, which is perpetuals. But there's a lot of other use cases, meme coins, trading cards, real world assets. And there today as it stands, and I'm not saying forever, I'm saying today as it stands, that's Hyperliquid is not really playing there. They want to play there in future. Now, here's a clip from an interview from Kevin, my friend, who's from When Shift Happens, interviewing Jeff, the founder at Hyperliquid. And listen to how he describes what their mission statement is.
To support this show, please check the sponsor links in the description down below. You often talk about housing all of finance. What does that mean?
So Hyperliquid wants to house all of finance, right? And right now they don't. Right now they're just housing good perpetuals. Will they in the future? They may. But remember that Solana has a much bigger user base. So when the market picks up and something happens, like a meme coin or an NFT or whatever else, nothing is going to beat Solana in terms of distribution. Yes, I agree. When it comes to perpetuals, hype is going to win. And I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Today, the biggest use case for crypto is trading perpetuals. I've got to highlight for you how big that actually is, right? So what is this perpetuals? This perpetual contract was actually discovered by Arthur Hayes. Arthur Hayes was the creator. He was the one who actually brought it into crypto. And that's a futures contract that never, ever expires. It just carries on perpetually. Normally, futures contracts expire. So you'd buy like a December contract or a May contract or whatever else. The perpetual never expires. That was the big revolution. And therefore, people invest in this. That's what we all play. We all play these perpetuals. And they are the biggest fee generator in crypto. And so Hyperliquid has become the biggest player in the decentralized world for the biggest use case in crypto. If you think about the most profitable businesses today in crypto, the first one is obviously the stablecoin issuers, that's Tether, Circle, etc., etc. The next one is the exchanges, and the exchanges actually aren't making their money on spot. They're making their money on perps, right? And that's the product market fit that Hyperliquid's found. In contrast to that, Solana had a big player in perps, but that player actually blew out. That was Drift, remember? Now, Drift couldn't compete with Hyperliquid. But after, Solana is actually proposing a protocol upgrade. And when they have the protocol upgrade, they're going to get these massive performance gains, right? So they're going to get like transaction finality going to 150 milliseconds in a more decentralized environment than Hyperliquid. Optimistic confirmations going down by almost going down to 20% of the speed that they or improving by 80%. So with this 𝗙𝗃𝗄𝗏 upgrade that's happening to Solana sometime in Q3, it will make Solana competitive when it comes to perpetuals. Now, in May this year, Solana launched a Twitter account called @Perps, which is the Solana Perps Twitter account, right? It hasn't posted anything yet, but you can see that they are preparing. I'm not sure if Solana is ever going to be the Perps trading platform. I think for now, Hyperliquid's got product market fit. They've also got network effects. And the one thing that I've learned is that when something has network effects, you generally don't want to compete with it in the place where it has network effects because you can't win. So I think when it comes to, I mean, we can look at some other metrics. When it comes to ETFs right now, Hyperliquid has $138 million locked up in ETFs. Solana has 1.1 billion. So you can't compare when it comes to that. It does show you that right now there's a lot more institutional demand for Solana than there is for Hyperliquid. However, when you buy Hyperliquid in the market and you put it in the ETF, because a lot of the Hyperliquid supply is still locked up, unlike the Solana supply, because Solana is a more mature protocol, then you are absorbing a lot of the circulating supply. And so it does look to me like, it does make sense that when you're buying up Hyperliquid, you're buying a lot of the circulating supply, which puts a lot of supply pressure on. So, I mean, again, you can see the number of active addresses here when you're talking about Solana. You can't compete. There's got 5 million plus active addresses in the last month. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. Also, when it comes to Solana, the big thing that Solana's got is they've got the majority of the app revenue, right? So when you talk about app revenue, it's the revenue that all the apps are making on your chain. And here, Solana wins, right? And the revenue is not just around one decentralized perps exchange. It's around a lot of protocols, Pump Fund, Radium, Jupiter, etc., etc. Solana also are running this proposal to increase the burn of Solana, so that will reduce the supply. So lots of things happening on both sides. So now the big question becomes, which one performs better? Are you taking Arthur Hayes' side or are you taking Kyle Samani's side? What are the audience saying here, Hardis?
61% on hype side.
61% of you are saying on hype side.
39% sold.
39% of you are saying Solana. So where am I going to go? Where am I going to go? So I want to read the bet again. Let's just read the bet again because I've got it in front of me. So the bet is as follows. It says, just going to close this. I want you guys to be able to read it. Let's close that for you guys. Come on. Okay, let's look at the bet. Okay, hey Kyle Samani. Maybe you were busy last time I pinged you. Let's do a gentleman's charitable bet. I put 100K on the line to a charity of your choice that hype outperforms any current top 10 USDT from now until the end of the year. So you've got 6 months. June, July, August, September, October, November, December. You got 7 months. 7 months. And I'm going to make an assumption that we are going to be in a slight bull market. Let's assume that we're working in the 4-year cycle. Slight bull market in October. I think I'm going to put my money on Solana. And I think the reason why I'm going to put my money on Solana is, as I say, I'm impartial. I think they're both very good protocols. But Sol has more active addresses. Sol has more users. Sol has more apps that are playing against it. And right now, Hyperliquid is overextended and Solana is not overextended. So on this bet, as much as I disagree with Kyle Samani on many things, the one thing that I don't disagree with Kyle Samani on is the fact that I think Solana actually outperforms Hype. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm holding equal amounts of both of them. So I mean, I actually don't really care, to be honest. I mean, I do care. I want to make money, but yeah. Speaking of Hype, I'm going to remind you of this. If you're not already doing it, I don't know what you're waiting for. So if you want to farm points, because remember, I missed the Hyperliquid. I missed the Hyperliquid airdrop. When I say I missed it, I got some points, but I could have been a multi-millionaire just from that airdrop, right? Now, as you can see, something's going on in the war because the oil futures actually spiked. See that oil futures actually spiked? I'm watching this on Variational. Variational is a DEX just like Hyperliquid is. You can trade real world assets, you can trade crypto, etc., etc. I've got $10,000 in this account. Do I take a little bit of a bet on a Bitcoin bounce? No, I'm not ready to take a bet on a Bitcoin bounce. Where I am ready to take a bet is I want to wait for Bitcoin to recover, and then I will take a bit of a bet here. Meanwhile, copper at all-time highs. You can see you can trade all of this on Variational, right? While you do that, you're actually farming for the airdrop. Now you get airdrop points every Friday, so you know exactly how much money you've got. And if you use the code 𝗦𝗛𝗢, that's the code, then you get a 15% boost in your points. It's the only place you can get a 15% boost in your points. You've got to use one of our codes, right? Paolo is sending me something. He says, oh, Iran has halted indirect talks with the US over alleged violations of ceasefire in Lebanon and Gaza. Oh my goodness, I would hate to be in Iran today. Yeah, I would hate to be in Iran today. It's not good. It's not good. Halting talks over Lebanon and Gaza issue adds more uncertainty as the broader US negotiations, especially around the Strait of Hormuz and nuclear issues. I think this is a very dangerous play by Iran because you know that Trump's going to strike back. It's not doing wonders for our Bitcoin price. It's not doing good. It's not doing well for our Bitcoin price. It's not doing well for our Bitcoin price. We're now under the bear flag, which is not where we want to be. We really don't want to be. Let's just look at what the weekly looks like. It's not good. It's not good. No, we've broken down below. We can't. If we close down below that, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. Yeah, and if we're in big trouble, then that's not good. Anyway, remember, if you want to farm those variational points, you know where to go. It doesn't cost you anything. You trade, use the code 𝗦𝗢𝗢, you get 15% extra points boost. We get 15% extra points boost. All right, my friends, have a good day. I will see you guys again tomorrow. Actually, I'll see you later on Crypto Insider. I'm dropping that new video, which I think you guys should all watch. We are turning Crypto Insider into much more of an institutional trading institutional information platform. So if you are more institutional, you should go and subscribe to Crypto Insider. All right, my friends, I'll see you guys again later. Until then, trade well, my friends.